It's just finished. Bayer Leverkusen 2, West Ham United nil in the Europa League, not Europa Conference, quarter-final first leg. Deflated is the way to describe it. I think we defended incredibly up until the end, and two late goals, neither of which were that complicated. And I think that's the worst part about it for me. I think when you look at how the game played out and you look at who we were facing and all the fancy stuff they were trying and nice quick passing and getting into the box and finding lots of touches in the box and all that sort of stuff, they were doing a lot of really good things. And none of that was the effective stuff. None of that's the stuff that actually ended up scoring. What it was a random swing of the leg from a corner, which ended up going into the net with Fabianski missighted and Victor Boniface getting a very, very simple header at the end. Stress. Very, very stressed. Very, very disappointing. Because I thought for the most part we did our job. I thought we set up correctly. It was a difficult game to set up for. We just saw with the Wolves match how much we struggle against teams who play with five at the back and how difficult that can be, especially if they sit deep against us. And so coming into this one, I had little to no faith that we would get the win. And realistically, if you told me this was the way it'd play out, I would have 100% believed you. It's not one of those situations where I'm disappointed because it's so against what I thought would happen. It's more just that, like I said, we set up in the right way. We moved in the correct way. We did what we needed to do. And I think there were signs in that first half where we saw what should have been our route to goal. Those counter-attacking opportunities, quick counters. Mikel Antonio, too, specifically. There was the first one where he was basically wide on the left-hand touchline, getting the ball and just kicking it past Tar and flying past him to getting on goal and creating the opportunity for Mohamed Kudus, who takes a shot, and it was very, very tame. And then the second one where he fought Jonathan Tah, Tapsoba, and Granit Xhaka all at the same time to create an opportunity, pulls it back, and there's no one there. Unfortunately, those were the only really two big opportunities we had, and really the only goal we could. I think we only created one shot in the end anyway. I'd have to go back and double check, but I think we only ended up creating one shot in the game in general. And it being that early in the game was stress. And that should have been our route to goal. That should have been what we saw, because Bayer Leverkusen, for all of their possession, for all of their passing, for all of their brilliant movements and rotations and all of that stuff, they weren't creating all of that much. First half, they had 18 shots, but really it wasn't that scary. Like they weren't, it's not like any of the shots were particularly dangerous. Adley would very occasionally get into the half spaces, into interesting positions and do stuff with it, but it wasn't really that dangerous. And I felt like if we were able to really get that fast counter-attacking going, then maybe we'd be able to hit a smash and grab here. And that wouldn't have been, frankly, I wouldn't have been against that. I said we'd lose before the game. I predicted a 2-1 loss. So if you told me you get a smash and grab, I'm not exactly against it, especially in Europe when all that counts is winning, and especially against a team who are currently unbeaten in, what is it, 43, 44 or something stupid like that. I would have 100% taken that. But it didn't play out that way, and the second half became a lot more open. They had a lot less shots, and a lot of them from range. There was clearly a lot of frustration with them. I think they were just taking random pot shots at one point, and it really didn't feel like there was a lot going forward for them. But as the game went on further and further, and as we got deeper into it, I didn't feel like there was any chance of us hitting those counter attacks anymore. It just didn't exist, and eventually the dam broke. And it's a shame because, like I say, we defended so unbelievably well from all of their fancy stuff. We packed out the box well, we got into positions well, we did so many. The defensive side of the game, I almost can't complain about, despite the fact they had 2 goals and they were 2 very simple goals. It's just such a shame that that's the way it ended up playing out. Because if this was 0-0, I would be very, very different right now. Despite only having 20-odd% of the ball and all of these shots and all this other sort of stuff, if this was 0-0, I'd be very, very different right now. And they did have a couple of notable chances before that Fabianski stepped up to. I thought Fabianski had a very, very good game today. I thought there were 2 people who were sort of in with a shout of man of the match. One would have been Fabianski, the other one would have been Mikel Antonio. Just because Mikel Antonio, the work rate he put in, but without Fabianski, it would have been a very different game. Some of those saves he made were utterly brilliant. There was the flick from, who was the first one don't remember, but there was a flick on where he palms it over by his fingertips. There was another where he stopped it, a long shot from Grimaldo in the first half. That was a decent save. There was a long shot that went along the floor towards the bottom corner that he stopped. I think maybe from Adley potentially. First shot was definitely Adley that he saved from as well. He made a notable amount of decent saves, but outside of that, it becomes difficult to talk about, because it's one of those games where I wish there was someone else here to talk to me, because there's just nothing there's just not a lot to say, because for the vast majority of the game it was exactly the same. If you show me a clip from the 3rd minute and you show me a clip from whenever they scored, the 80th minute, I don't know when they scored, probably like 82nd or something, then I probably wouldn't be able to tell you exactly when in the game it would happen without being able to identify who was on the pitch at the time or whatever. Like, it was just so samey for the entire game, and we did it so well, but again, it's just that counter-attacking side of our game just was non-existent. And without that, you were really just not going to get anything. And then, of course, there's the bigger problem here, which is the yellow card for Lucas Paqueta, which is horrendous. And I think at 1-0, at 0-0, fine. At 1-0, without Lucas Paqueta, don't know. I said in the game, if you'd offered me a 1-0 loss before the game, I would have taken it. If you'd offered me 1-0 loss and Lucas Paqueta suspension, I probably wouldn't have. At 2-0, without Lucas Paqueta, very, very, very difficult to see us getting back into this. I have faith that we'll show up and we'll show out. We're good at home in those. We're good at home in those second legs, in the Europa League and in the Europa Conference League. We do really well. The crowd are up for it. Everything sort of works in our favour in those games, and we could potentially see that one more time. But just without Paqueta, it becomes impossible really to see how that comes forward. And I mean, today we didn't really utilize him to his best. He got very pissed off very early, and they sort of did a job on him. We tried to do a job on Wirtz, and that didn't really work out. It's just a massively disappointing result, a massively deflating result, because 10 minutes ago we were cruising towards a 0-0 draw against a team who are undefeated in 40 whatever games, and we were putting ourselves in a really good position for that second leg to do something and to knock them out and to be the team that beats them and to go through to the semis. But if you haven't seen the goals, 2 very basic goals. The first one is gets a corner, gets played in, comes back across the box from a header down. There's a shot from, I think it's Victor Boniface, that Kurt Zouma gets the block on. It bounces up, and Jonas Hofmann, who also came on as a sub during the game alongside Victor Boniface, just sort of swings his left foot at it. There was no technique, there was no guile. It wasn't incredible. It wasn't any fancy finish. It wasn't particularly in towards any of the corners. It wasn't particularly strong. It hit it was pretty close to Fabianski, but just because there's so many people in front of him, he doesn't see it until the last possible second, and it ends up in the net, which was massively disappointing enough. And then you go to the second goal, which is again incredibly basic. It's just a cross into the box, and Victor Boniface, who picks up the space in between Kurt Zouma and Aaron Cresswell. Kurt Zouma takes 2 steps forwards, jumps for it, completely misjudges the flight of the ball, completely misses it, and Victor Boniface is there. And it's a good header from Boniface, don't get me wrong, but it's such a basic goal to concede, a cross in from a head and a basic header, not something we should have been outdone by. And that's kind of what hurts the most. It's not that we got beat 2-0, because I expected them to score 2 goals. I predicted 2-1 to them, but it's that they were 2 such basic goals. That's the bit that's really annoying, because the rest of the game we did so well defensively. But what can you do? What can you do? Sometimes you just have to take these ones and move on with your life. And I don't see a way back into it. It's 2 legs. I always try to look at European games in terms of 2 legs. I don't try to look at them in a game-by-game basis. But I don't see a way of getting it in. I don't see a way of making it in that second half at this point. Without Paqueta, I don't. It sucks. It sucks, but it is the way it is. I don't know what else there is to say, really. we tried to do some things. We tried to do some things differently. We tried to switch up during the second half. We tried to move Paqueta up front and move Mikel Antonio to the left hand side, which felt like a way to try and maybe utilize what we saw in the first half of Mikel Antonio getting that space and being able to beat Jonathan Tah, who was physically dominant against Mikel Antonio a lot of time when they were 1v1. There was a lot of opportunities and little calls for penalties here and there. You know, you had Jonathan Tah all over Mikel Antonio. You had I can't remember who the other guy was. Taps over on someone, don't remember who, that was sort of being grabbed up and tried to make it happen. But I mean, I don't believe any of those were massive penalty shouts anyway, so I wouldn't really think about it that deeply. So realistically, we tried to move Mikel Antonio out onto that left-hand side to try and maybe give him that bit of space to sort of run at Jonathan Tah, you know, exploit the space that's in behind Frimpong when he goes flying forward, and then we just didn't pass it to him. We just never got the ball to him. So moving him out there seemed relatively pointless because we couldn't really make the most of it. The ball would end up getting into the space of Kudus and Paqueta. And look, it's not bad to give the ball to Kudus and Paqueta, but when Mikel Antonio's been moved out there and has so much space, hey, maybe utilize that. But we just didn't. We just didn't. And yeah, I don't know what else there is to say. It sucks. It sucks. It's a crap result from what was ultimately a very good performance for the vast majority of it defensively. Attacking wise, we weren't good enough anywhere close to it. But you know, they're a good team, and it's going to be a damn difficult situation in that second leg to do anything, especially without Lucas Paqueta. I honestly cannot see there being anything in it. But yeah, there we go. 2-0. Sucks, but listen, it's not over till the fat lady sings, but she's warming up the pipes. She's warming up the pipes. Maybe I'll feel better. Maybe Gio and Gonzo will feel better. They'll be back. They might put up a video later this evening. I'm not sure, but we'll definitely be back tomorrow. They will, of course, at the Hammers Chat live show. So if you're somehow seeing this after the Hammers Chat live show, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. We had that in Stratford today. If we do somehow get through to the semi-finals, the away leg will be doing another live show type thing. So hey, look out for that if it happens. I don't think it's going to happen. If it happens, look out for that. But they will be back, and I'll be sure to surely they'll be giving their thoughts fully. But yeah, 2-0 in the end. 2-0 in the end. A disappointing result, disappointing performance. Well, a good performance defensively, but a disappointing attacking performance. And yeah, what can you do? Thanks for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to like the video. I apologize for the vibes. I've got nothing for you. It feels like being punched in the head right at the end of that game. So I can't really begin to express any sort of vibe apart from that. But yeah, make sure if you haven't already subscribed, like the video. And we'll see you next time. Cheers, everyone. Bye.